Tonight on First Tuesday.
It was quite clear that no one was to be spared in that village.
We go back to Vietnam and to the massacre at My Lai.
Deep down, we felt what we were doing was right. But after it was over, everyone knew it was wrong.
Good evening. Over the years on First Tuesday, we've done a number of films about men at war, about the universal soldier who fulfills bravely the requirements of his political masters. But tonight we're forced to look critically at the soldier himself and at the training which turns civilians into the killers that war requires. The My Lai massacre in 1968, in which US troops killed nearly 500 Vietnamese civilians, was one of the incidents which swung American opinion decisively against involvement in Vietnam. It was truly horrific, but the fact is, it wasn't untypical of other incidents in the war, just bigger. Tonight, 20 years on, the My Lai killers tell us their story, of brutality even more barbarous than has ever been admitted officially, of the training which made them think the way they did, and of the Vietnamese faces which will haunt them to their graves. In Vietnam, those few who survived the massacre talk of their lost families and their everlasting loneliness. All the legacy of 4 hours in My Lai.
Can you tell me, Bernardo, what this book is? Why you've kept it?
This is my life. This is my past, this is my present, this is my future. And I keep it, to remind me. But it's always there. This is it. This is my life. This is everything. This is the way I am. This is what made me this way.
My Lai today, a small hamlet close to the coast of central Vietnam. On their maps, the Americans called the area Pinkville, and that is how the massacre was known at first, the Pinkville Massacre. Today, the villagers are farmers and fishermen, just as they were 20 years ago. But then, My Lai was at the center of a bitterly contested region in a cruel war. Early one morning in March 1968, Charlie Company of the 1st 20th American Infantry Battalion landed here by helicopter and attacked the village. By the time they left, 4 hours later, the young GIs of Charlie Company had killed hundreds of old men, women, and children in cold blood. The village of My Lai had ceased to exist.
Let's go.
In Fort Benning, Georgia, new infantry recruits to the American Army receive their first rounds of ammunition and take their first steps as soldiers. In 1967, at the height of the war, thousands of young men were sent here for basic training. Most were bound for Vietnam, including many of those who would eventually make up Charlie Company.
The transition from civilian to soldier is a very distinct and very rigorous training. Soldiers are taught all the things that they need to know about being a good soldier in those very early days and weeks in basic training.
Let's go, step it out, step it out. Keep your heads up. You all look like you're tired. Are you tired? No, yes.
They are taught how to use weapons to kill. They are taught how to drill, how to march with weapons.
Get that weapon up,
all of these drills and different maneuvers are carried out by orders. They are taught hand-to-hand fighting. They are taught close order fighting. They are taught how to deal with the enemy when they come face-to-face with him. They are trained to be killers. They are trained from their early weeks in basic training. They are taught how to use a bayonet.
Butt stroke to the growing series. Move! Kill! Kill! Kill!
They are taught the spirit of the bayonet. The spirit of the bayonet is to kill.
Kill!
You wanted soldiers highly motivated. His way of motivating them was to have a response, a command and response from the soldiers. And he would say, what is the spirit of the bayonet? And to kill, Sergeant, to kill. What is the spirit of the bayonet? To kill. So soldiers were motivated along these lines.
What is the spirit of the bayonet?
Kill, kill, kill! It's Cold Blues down!
And that would be their response. And he would drill them into a state of readiness. And he would just inspire them through his speaking and through his talking and through his teaching of what the spirit was. As one of the sergeants who trained the men of Charlie Company, I was very pleased with the way they turned out. They turned out to be very good soldiers.
The men of Charlie Company arrived in Vietnam from Hawaii in December 1967. They'd had no combat experience, but had performed well in training and were considered the best company in their battalion. Their average age was 20. They'd been drawn together from all over America. An Army report would later describe them as a typical cross-section of American youth assigned to most combat units.
The majority of the men in C Company were just your average normal Americans. Most of us were all middle income, middle class families. They were from all across the United States, Indiana. I was from Pennsylvania. So I'd say you had a good cross-section of the total population of the United States at that point in time. A lot of times when we were first in country, we would go to the villages up and down the highway, Highway 1. You'd play with the kids in between pulling guard duty. And one bridge in particular, there was a boy that always hung around up there with the GIs. We nicknamed him Six Fingers because he had an extra thumb. He had 6 fingers. But you'd always take him stuff, candy, pop. Take pictures with them, you know, GIs with the kids. You got to meet a lot of people.
There was no one else but us. We were in this company, in this place, all alone. We had a company of men that all came from one country, all came from the same culture, and we would drop 10,000 miles away, and we felt close that way because there was nobody else to feel close to.
American soldiers on patrol in Vietnam in 1968. This was the job of the infantry, the common grunts. And barely a month after their arrival in Vietnam, Charlie Company were deployed on operations like these in Quang Ngai province, around the area they called Pinkville, which was known to be sympathetic to the enemy.
When we first started losing members of the company, it was mostly through booby traps and snipers. We never really got into a main conflict per se where you could see who was shooting at you and you could actually shoot back at them one-on-one. Booby traps was the main problem.
Newsreel pictures show clearly enough the effect of booby traps. In the weeks leading up to My Lai, Charlie Company experienced many scenes like these. In a unit of little over 120 men, they lost 4 killed and 38 wounded, almost all by mines, booby traps and snipers. They could seldom find an enemy to shoot back at, and as their frustration grew, the distinction between combatants and civilians rapidly eroded.
I've seen the enemy, yes. But who is the enemy? You know, you had little kids over there that would shoot you or stab you in the back when you walk away. You know, who is the enemy? How can you distinguish between the enemy? The good or the bad? All of them look the same. That's the reason the war was so different. You know, it wasn't like the Germans over here or Japanese over there. They all look like North and the South. You know, so how can you tell?
Within a few weeks of arriving in the country, men from Charlie Company had already begun systematically mistreating their prisoners. There were reports of random killings and rapes. One GI took this snapshot of an interrogation involving torture. In mid-February, Lieutenant Calley, leader of the 1st Platoon, threw an old man down a well and shot him. No disciplinary action was taken.
When I saw American soldiers committing acts that would be called atrocities if somebody else had done them, I began to think that maybe I was wrong. Maybe I had been just too naive all my life, that this was the way things really were. I tried not to think like that. I tried to keep my own values together, but it wasn't easy. Little by little, I began to see that this group of men was getting out of control.
On the 15th of March, plans were drawn up for an attack on My Lai, believed by intelligence to be the HQ of a Viet Cong battalion. Charlie Company was to mount the main attack, and fierce battle was anticipated. Colonel Aran Henderson, brigade commander, expressed irritation at past failures to close with the enemy and demanded more aggression. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Barker drew up detailed plans, and his orders were passed on to Charlie Company by their CO, Captain Ernest Medina. No one in the chain of command has ever accepted responsibility for what happened, but Charlie Company had little doubt about what they had to do.
The understanding or the order that was given was to kill everybody in the village. Someone asked if that meant the women and children, and the order was everyone in the village, because those people that were in the village, the women, the kids, the old men, were VC, and they were Viet Cong themselves, or they were sympathetic to the Viet Cong. They were not sympathetic to the South Vietnamese army, and they weren't sympathetic to the Americans. They weren't giving us any assistance. They weren't helping us in the war effort whatsoever.
So it was quite clear that no one was to be spared?
It was quite clear that no one was to be spared in that village.
My understanding was we were going to get into one hell of a fight, and we were going to kick some ass when we got done. There wasn't going to be anybody left. It didn't turn out that way.
News film of a helicopter assault, one of thousands conducted by the Americans during the Vietnam War. The attack on My Lai started in the same way, just after 7 o'clock in the morning. It was a Saturday. According to intelligence, all civilians would have gone to market. anyone still in the village would be Viet Cong, but intelligence was wrong. As the troops embarked, 12 minutes flying time away, many villagers were still finishing breakfast. At 7:22, the first helicopters left for My Lai. The first helicopters appeared over My Lai at 7:35 a.m. There was no hostile fire. Within 20 minutes, all 120 men and 5 officers of Charlie Company were landed. There was no opposition.
Buổi sáng chuẩn bị đi ra đồng là tà ba tập thang nó đánh, nó quằn, nó thả một quả khói, rồi phố bán đánh, đồng bào không biết chạy đâu, bán một số, còn một số nó dẫn đi tập trung, như tôi đây nó dẫn đi tập trung, rồi nó dẫn đi đến mương cây, nó dẫn đến mương cây, nó bị ngồi xuống, ngồi nó biết đứng lại dậy, đứng lên, tưởng đâu là nó đứng nó cho về, cuối cùng đứng lên nó xô xuống mương cây, nó bám đồng bào ta cháy hết. Rồi vừa xong lúc đó mẹ con tôi chung núp nằm dưới mấy người cháy kia, cháy trước ngã chặn tôi.
I was 19 when I went to Vietnam. I was a rifleman specialist, 4th class. I was trained to kill, but the reality of killing someone is different from training and pulling the trigger. You know.
So you knew when you went into the village that if you found women, old men, children, anything that was living, you knew that you were going to have to kill them that day?
From women and children to dogs and cats, yes. Yes.
So,
but I didn't know it, that I was going to do that. I knew the women and children was there, but for me to say that I was going to kill them, I didn't know I was going to do that until it happened. I didn't know I was going to kill anyone. I didn't want to kill anyone. I wasn't raised up to kill. You know. Now, she was running with her back from a tree line, but she was carrying something. I didn't know if it was a weapon or what, but it was a woman. You know, I knew it was a woman. I didn't want to shoot a woman, you know, but I was given an order to shoot. So I'm thinking that she had a weapon running, so when I shot and I turned over, it was a baby. You know, shot about 4 times, 3 or 4 times. And the bullet just went through and shot the baby too, you know. And I turned over and I saw the baby face was half gone, you know. And I just blinked. I just went. You know. The training came to me, the programming to kill. And I just started killing.
What do you mean you just started killing? Did you go looking for people to kill or what?
You didn't have to look. They was there. They was trying to get away. But they was just there. It wasn't hard to kill. It wasn't hard to find anyone to kill.
Không có gì. Ở đây thì làm ăn bình thường lắm. Mà khi không với má ba nó ồ ọt tới nó đổ quân xuống. Đổ quân xuống nó bồ dày 4 phía. tôi mới thấy ở tràng này nó trang súng rồi nó bắn rồi đó, nó bắn ra một loạt cái bà con chết thôi ghê gớm. Số con bị lúa mới chặn, làm úp lên cái mình thì thằng con nó chặn thằng con, biểu thằng con đừng có khác, chứ bây giờ bà con Mỹ nó bán cháy hết rồi nghe con, bây giờ con đừng khác để mẹ chặn có sống sót không, mẹ con sống sót không. Rồi cái một hồi cái tôi nghe nó làm thinh cái tôi mới ngắt cái đầu chạy dậy thì tôi sống sót là nhờ hơi cái sót chết chồng lên mình tôi đây nữa nè, chồng lên mình tôi ngắt cái đầu dậy thì tôi theo trăng này nó đi lố nhố, nó cứ chỉ trỏ biết gì. Cái còn mà sống sót cột cửa nó ra nó bán lợ hơi dỗ với nữa, rồi cái hết rồi cái mấy tôi mẹ tôi em tôi con rồi chết chưa đó, thì nó đứt ruột đứt gân quá đi. Cam tù chết Mỹ lắm, tội quá đi. Gáy tới chừng đồ thì ta phải khác chừng đấy.
That day in my life, I was personally responsible for killing between 20 and 25 people, about 25 people, personally.
Men,
From
women.
shooting them, to cutting their throats, to scalping them, to cutting off their hands and cutting out their tongue. I did that.
Why did you do all that? You didn't tell me. Why did you kill them and do that?
I just went. My mind just went. Wasn't the only one that did it. A lot of other people did it. I just killed. Once I started the training, the whole programming part of killing, it just came out.
But your training didn't tell you to scalp people or to cut ears?
No. But a lot of people were doing it. So I just followed suit. I just lost all sense of direction, of purpose. I just started killing any kind of way I could kill. It just came. I didn't know I had it in me. But like I said, after I killed the child, my whole mind just went. It just went. And once you start, it's very easy to keep on. Once you start. The hardest part is to kill, but once you kill, that's become easier to kill the next person and the next one and the next one. Because I had no feelings or no emotions or no nothing, no direction, I just killed.
Most disturbing thing I saw was one boy. And this was something that, you know, this is what haunts me from the whole ordeal down there. It was a boy with his arm shot up, half hanging on. And he just had this bewildered look in his face, and I'm like, what did I do? What's wrong? He was just, you know, it's hard to describe. Couldn't comprehend. I shot the boy, killed him. And I'd like to think of it more or less as a mercy killing because somebody else would have killed him in the end. But it wasn't right.
Throughout the morning of March the 16th, a photographer and reporter from an army newspaper followed Charlie Company through My Lai. These black and white photos, taken on an army camera, did not show what was happening to the people whose homes were burning or the fate of villagers rounded up by the GIs. But the photographer was also carrying his own camera.
I happened up on a group of GIs surrounding these people. And one of the American GIs yelled out, "Hey, he's got a camera." So they kind of all dispersed just a little bit, and I came up on them and looking at the photograph, I noticed the one girl was kind of frantic and an older woman trying to protect a small child. And the older woman in front was just, you know, kind of pleading, trying to beg, begging and that. And another person, that woman was buttoning her blouse and holding a small baby. Okay, I took the photograph. I thought they were going to question the people. But just as soon as I turned and walked away, I heard firing. I looked around over the corner of my shoulder. I saw the people drop. I just kept on walking. At the time, it was just, capturing a reaction. But when you look at it later on in life, you know now these people are dead. They were shot. Just kind of an eerie type feeling that goes through your whole body. And you think back, could I have prevented this? How could I have prevented this? Yeah, it's a question I still kind of, ask myself today.
You lined up people? You were one of the people who was mowing down big groups of people?
A group of about 10. Yes.
What happened? Did you round them up?
We just round them up. Put them in a circle. And put me, a couple of more guys, and just put the M16 on automatic.